let's meet the man. This is Don Lafontaine. Mr. Lafontaine, how are you doing?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. I know you're a real busy man, so 10 quick questions.
Okay.
I got to know. How did you get started in the movie voiceover business?
Well, sort of by accident. I was a recording engineer, and then I discovered I had a sort of a facility for writing back in the early 60s. And I hooked up with a guy named Floyd Peterson, who was, at that point, trying to sell the movie companies on the idea of doing radio spots, which hadn't been done to that point. And we got very successful at it. I joined up with him, and one day I was doing, I think, 5 different radio campaigns for different movies, one of them being a picture called Gunfighters of Casa Grande, which I know is on everyone's must-see list. And the announcer that I had hired didn't make it. And so I had to present something to Metro the following morning, so I went in and recorded it, having written it, so I knew I wanted it read, and much to my amazement, they bought it. And that's where it started, and now 40-something years later and 5,000 movies later, here I am.
Wow, so before that, you had no inclination to actually do the voiceovers yourself?
No, not really.
Wow, that's amazing. So the guy that didn't show up, he's like the Wally Pipp of movie voiceover guys.
I'm going to send him a check if I can remember his name.
I'm sure he'd like that.
I've worked on 5,000 films, roughly. I haven't narrated 1,000 movies. Probably narrated about 3,500, somewhere in that area. I haven't kept an accurate count, but I know the round figure of the number of films that I've worked on since the beginning is around 5,000. Yeah.
And what are some of the more memorable ones?
Oh, I don't know, Dr. Zhivago, 2001: A Space Odyssey, the re-release of Gone with the Wind, the re-release of West Side Story, the re-release of Ben-Hur, Fatal Attraction, all the Rocky movies, most of the Terminator pictures, Far from the Madding Crowd, I don't know, it goes on and on. There's, a whole bunch of movies, beginning with Dr. Strangelove.
Wow. So that's pretty amazing. So you're possibly responsible for selling more movie tickets than anyone alive.
Well, I would like to think so. Yeah, I hope so.
I've heard people in the industry refer to you as the voice of God. I mean, does that go to your head?
I think God actually sounds like Oprah.
Oh, that's a pity. That's a pity. So, and you also do the promos on Fox for The Simpsons every week, don't you?
I do Fox, I do The Simpsons, I do American Dad, I do Family Guy, I do American Idol, I do 24, and a few other shows on Fox, and I do some stuff on CBS and some stuff on NBC and occasionally ABC and the Water Channel and TBS and TNT and places like that, So,
what is a typical day like for you?
A typical day is I have received the night before a fax from my agents telling me what has been booked for the day. Then usually something is added on to that during the course of the day. I generally start with stuff for Entertainment Tonight and The Insider because I do their spots. And then I'll be doing some network things usually, and sometimes a trailer, sometimes maybe the America's Most Wanted, which is another show that I do. And I'll do between 7 and 12 sessions a day generally. That's
amazing. That's unbelievable.
Well, when I was really busy, I've done as many as 26 sessions in a day and over 130, 140 spots.
In one day?
Yeah.
So traveling all over town?
That's what I used to do. Now I do everything from home.
Okay, Don, you got to tell me. Women must love talking to you on the phone.
Yeah, then they meet me, and then the whole thing goes real south real fast. No, I don't know. I'm not much of a phone conversationalist, really. I sort of get lost that way. But, yeah, the voice has stood me in good stead on a number of occasions, yeah.
Well, I saw that Geico commercial that you did.
Yeah.
And, with the voice and the look. I mean, you look like a badass dude, Don. I got to tell you.
I actually am. I've killed a number of people, but I don't want that made public, so don't play that part of the interview.
Okay. Well, hopefully they're industry people and nobody will miss them.
Yeah, well, they are. They're people who deserve killing, so there's no problem with that. No, actually, I'm pretty much of a pussycat. You can ask my children that. They can wrap me around their finger anytime they want.
Kids are like that.
Yeah, they are, especially daughters.
So what is the difference in voicing a romantic comedy trailer or a promo for an action movie?
Well, Well, the difference between all the things is giving the words their proper weight, understanding what the script is saying and understanding what the script wants you to say and how it wants you to interpret it. Words it's basically singing without music is what I'm doing, and acting for the blind is another way of putting it on. You're having to create an oral sound picture for people's imaginations to add to whatever else is happening, either on the screen or if it's on radio, just what they're hearing. And I just look at the script, and they generally tell me how they want to be read. The difference between romance and action, of course, is tonality of your voice. If you want to be romantic, you don't sound like you're going to chainsaw a tree down. So you have to, slow your pace down and soften your voice and, put more and oomph into it. And action generally calls for that kind of a hard-edged thing like that kind of a voice. But not always. I like sometimes underplaying it too. It all depends on whether you're doing if you're trying to amplify what's going on or work in counterpoint to what's going on the screen.
So you're like the Yo-Yo Ma of voiceover.
Well, I don't know. That's I like that comparison, but I'm not about to make it.
I got to tell you that your voice is so distinctive. I hear it. And I immediately know, like I'm drawn to it. It's like whether it's like a Eddie Murphy comedy or it's a big action movie. I mean, I am sucked in by the sound of your voice. I mean, it's a really powerful instrument.
Yeah, I got very lucky there. My dad had a deep voice, and so did my mother. Not as deep as mine, obviously, but that certainly helped. And I got real lucky as far as that. It's just been a case of the arc of my career has been a case of lucky circumstances, right place, right time, with the right tools on an extraordinary number of occasions. And so I've been a very, very lucky and very blessed individual.
So, what advice would you have then to aspiring voiceover artists? I know a number of people in my audience. They talk a lot, and they're broadcasters and voiceover people.
Sure. I recommend, I get a lot of emails about this, and I always recommend to everybody who writes about this, whether they're novices and just starting out, or even if they're experienced people, to pick up the copies of two different books. One of them is called Secrets of Voiceover Success by my friend Joan Baker, and I contributed to that book. I wrote a chapter for it. And The Art of Voice Acting by James A. Allberger. And he also has some quotes from me in that book. Between the two of them, you get a pretty good picture of what you're up against and how to proceed. My advice to everybody is always find your own voice. Of all the billions of people on the planet, there's only one you who's lived your life and can bring your experience to what you're reading. So don't try to imitate somebody else. Try to find your own voices. Find all of your voices. Practice, read, and not just advertising copy. I've always advised people to read things like The Raven and Gunga Din and Browning's Prospice and Elizabeth Barrett Browning for Women and the inscription at the base of the Statue of Liberty and the Pledge of Allegiance and the lyrics to your favorite songs. Read everything and anything into a microphone until you can bring yourself to tears when you have to do appropriately. You learn to give words their proper weight. Don't go out there until you're ready, because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And get good representation, get a good demo. Do not give up your day job. And hope you get real lucky.
All very good advice. Now, how many times do you think in your career you've had to say the phrase "in a world"?
I couldn't count them. I think I was one of the first people to write the phrase, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
Yeah,
so you coined it.
That's the standard joke. If somebody wants to make a joke about trailers, they go, "in a world," and everybody laughs. Unless you're at a theater, of course, then nobody laughs.
Right.
And the reason that we wrote that originally, or in a world, or any variation of it, in a place, in a time, whatever it is when you're doing a trailer, you have to very quickly set up the world or the situation you are bringing your audience into. You want to very quickly establish what the parameters of this particular story is. Then you can get on with the details. So in a world or in a place or in a time is one of the very fast ways of doing it. And God knows how many times I've said it. I wish I had a nickel for it. Well, actually, I do have one nickel every time I did. But I would say far more than 10 or 20, yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, basically, the concept behind a good promo is really like for the first thing you have to set up the place, and then the conflict, and then the cliffhanger.
Yeah, well, it's not me doing it anymore. But the format, the writing format, is generally that. Yes. Yeah, you have to set parameters, because when you're talking about selling entertainment, selling stories, you're taking people from their world into a different world. You're displacing them from their comfort zone into another place, and you want to very quickly establish that you've moved them there. And then you say, okay, now you're here in this situation, and here's what's about to unfold, or here's what you're about to face, or here's what you're about to experience. And then, of course, you have to do that with the proper weight on the words and the proper invocation to make them want to come and see the whole picture.
So, it's amazing when I hear the different reads that you do for different projects, the range that I find in your instrument, and it has to require a lot of care of that instrument. I mean, what kind of things do you do to take care of your voice?
I don't abuse it, Mark. I don't go to places where I have to scream over, a lot of noise or loud music, to cheer for some high overpaid athlete, something like that. I just don't do that. I don't smoke. I don't drink to excess. I don't abuse it, but you have to remember the voice is a muscle. And like any other muscle, if you use it, it becomes quite strong and quite flexible and quite enduring. And I use it all day long. And despite the fact that I've been clearing my throat through this entire conversation, it is, the fact that I use it as much as I do certainly stands it in good stead and helps it to work properly. As far as the flexibility of it, that's something that, again, if you're going to go after this kind of a thing as a career, these are the voices you have to find. You have to play with it. You have to read very, very softly, just above a whisper sometimes. You have to change the pace of what you're reading. And the reason I tell people to record just about everything that they read, and that's including the back of a box of cereal, because all words deserve their own weight, is you will stumble across tricks when you're doing things. You will do something that is completely unconscious, but you'll say, wow, that really works. I'm going to leave that in, or I'm going to pluck that from my memory when I need it for some piece of copy someplace.
Wow. So, like a lot of very successful people in Hollywood, there are causes that you support.
Yes.
And one charity in particular is something that you very strongly believe in.
There's three that I support quite strongly. One is I have a couple of friends that have charities that I think are terrific ones. The Andre Agassi Foundation. And the David Foster Foundation. David, of course, is the Grammy-winning producer. My wife works with him a lot as a singer. And both of them have terrific foundations to benefit children. Andre's is located in Las Vegas, and he has actually created a school and a whole system for underprivileged children, which is becoming a model around the nation and around the world. And what's great about his organization is that virtually every dime that is collected in donations goes to the organization. Andre pays all the administrative costs out of his own pocket,
wow,
which is an amazing thing.
Wow.
David Foster's organization works with children who need coronary care and heart transplants and heart surgeries, and has saved many, many children's lives. And so both of those organizations can be found at, for instance, www.agassifoundation.org or www.davidfosterfoundation.org for donations, which I recommend. And the third is an organization called Music for the Soul. And that's at www.musicforthesoul.org. And that was started by a friend of mine named Steve Seiler. And what he has done is remarkable. He has written music to address problems that people face, such as the loss of a loved one, or cancer, or teenage pregnancy or pornography. They've tried to take all the issues that make people emotional and hurt or hurtful or sad or angry, and address it with music. And it's just absolutely an amazing organization. And I invite everybody to go to that website and take a look at it. And I challenge you not to be moved. And you may find the piece of music that you might need to help you get through some difficult time. So those are my three pets. So,
wow. I think a lot of people, there's a perception I think a lot of people have of charities that are started by, celebrities or famous people, that these foundations, don't need, your help or my help. And that's completely not true.
No, of course it's not true. They're all charities, regardless if it's started by someone famous like Andre or David, or someone who's not famous like Steve Seiler. That's what they're called, charities. Rely on the charity, rely on the goodwill and the generosity of the people to help. It's a matter of personal taste. Obviously, other people might feel that muscular dystrophy or the Cancer Society or the American Heart Association or any number of these organizations deserve your money. And I say fine. I think that's no one has to give to my charity in particular, and those are my particular choices. But no, it doesn't make any difference. I think celebrities who have the clout to get something going like that, and they're legion. Who do these things. Tiger Woods has one, and I don't know how many people have charities that they started. I think if you can use that kind of clout to generate donations and to move people off the dime, to get them to put some of their generosity into these things is very, very helpful. The charitable dollars go a very, very long way. And sometimes even longer, even in organizations like Andre's and David's and Steve's.
And the holiday season is a great time to.
Well, that's about the best gift you can give. When you're giving the gift of life, or the gift of solace. In the case of Steve's organization, of Music for the Soul, what greater gift can you give?
Absolutely. Mr. LaFontaine, I can't thank you enough. I know that this was way more than 10 questions.
That's quite all right.
But I thank you so much for your time. And,
it's my pleasure, Mark.
And, I wish you, continued luck and success in the coming year.
And to you and all your listeners, happy holidays.